and you'll have your happy time. So wish on the moon, and someday, it may be tomorrow, you will suddenly hear chimes, and you'll have your happy time.
From Studio 401, it's the Stranger Than Fiction News right here on The Fringe FM. I'm Vance Nesbitt, and here's our headlines. Your brain needs 1.5 megabytes of storage to master your native language. At one point, we were all babbling babies, our brains producing sounds no more complicated than adorable ahs and coos. But during our early explorations, we began internalizing words, and they soon began to have meaning. Now, a new study suggests that learning a language between birth and the age of 18 is not as effortless as it may seem. An average English-speaking adult will likely have learned about 12.5 million bits of information related to language. A group of researchers reported this back on March 27th in the journal Royal Society Open Science. Source, Live Science. And a Big Mac sent into space is eaten after a crash landing on a soccer field. The frozen burger attached to a polystyrene box descended from space and landed at the league's soccer field training ground. Colchester United groundskeeper who made the discovery was puzzled until British YouTuber Tom Stanlin called the club to explain. The 29-year-old, known online as Killam, said in a video posted on the club's Twitter account, "I sent the burger into space using a weather balloon. It's gone about 24 miles up when the weather balloon popped, and it came back down over 100 miles, and it landed right here." Mr. Stranelin explained that the box sent up to space with a GoPro camera was also fitted with a tracker. Mr. Stanelin said he wanted to see what the burger tasted like. And his review? It was not nice. He added that the burger, which was dry, powdery, and frozen after its out-of-world journey, was drying my mouth out. Source, Metro UK. And a new Bigfoot sighting in Texas, and the witness said it clearly didn't look human. Out of Lufkin, Texas, a man claims he saw a Bigfoot walking on his eastern Texas property in Angelina County. The unnamed witness has reportedly been hearing strange noises and spotting a shadowy figure several times over the course of the past few weeks. Today, one of my neighbors complained about their dog being attacked, so I started looking more carefully. This is what he said on a Sunday night foggy YouTube video. "No one is going to believe me. I came out here earlier with my dog, and there was a hairy creature on the edge of my property right along the brush line. The man states he was able to look at it for a few minutes while his dog ran after it before disappearing into the woods. I have no idea what it was. It clearly did not look human." Earlier today, the man says he went back to where the alleged Bigfoot sighting took place and he photographed an unidentified footprint with what appears to have 5 toes. "This is proof of Bigfoot in East Texas," he said. Source, cryptozoologynews.com. And let's get to our fringe fun fact. According to a study, 1 in 9 Americans, which is exactly 11% of the population, think that HTML is actually the name of a disease. Thanks for listening to the Stranger Than Fiction News right here on the Fringe FM. Again, I'm Vance Nesbitt, news anchor and sorcerer.
Joe Rube, he's lighting the void, lighting the void. Joe's lighting the void. The enlightened one of the esoteric realms is here to guide you on a journey through your soul. So here we go, children. Here we go. Ha 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 ha!
This portion of the show is being brought to you by Beechnuts Mashed and Strained Chewing Tobacco for babies who just can't wait to grow up to be cowboys.
Message is being broadcast by the Department of Defense of the Republic. At 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, multiple unidentified objects were confirmed to have entered Earth's atmosphere.
Discovery Houston, 20 seconds to LOST drift.
Contact, nice to be in orbit. The first message that comes to you is you are a divine being. You matter. You count. You come from realms of unimaginable power and light, and you will return to those realms.
The vast stretches of the unknown and the unanswered and the unfinished still far outstrip our collective comprehension.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting from Forest Tower Studios, all the way from the Deep South. Now, here is your host, Joe Root.
Broadcasting from the mossy creek bottoms of Cane Creek, Arkansas, I'm Joe Root, and this is Lighting the Void. Thank you so much for joining us tonight on the broadcast. We're going to do something just a little different tonight. We're going to be discussing hermetics, the mysteries, and magic, but it's going to be a different type of show. Just you and I. Tonight, I'm going to draw a line in the sand, and it's a pretty thin line, actually, but I'm going to draw a line in the sand and ask you to cross that line. And after tonight, both you and I will know how to go forward on this thing. So everybody knows about this, right? The Emerald Tablets, the Emerald Tablet thing. I've had some of you ask me to do a show on it, so this is my attempt at it. But this is important because we're getting into some heady stuff here. This is ancient knowledge. We're talking about our history, the mystery of our history, to be more precise. And when it comes to stuff like this, I think we need to just be a little aware of what's going on. That's all. And I'll tell you what happened and why I'm doing this. And I thank you for your patience. I know we started an hour late, but some stuff came up, and I really had to take care of it. It was kind of private. I can't really talk to you about it. But if I did tell you, you would understand. I know that sounds like a cop-out, right? But you would understand. So everything's back to normal. I know the schedule got kind of wonky and a couple shows got cut off at the end. That sucks. But I know you're cool, and I appreciate you guys for your patience. All right, so real quick, before we get into this thing, make sure, like, if you're listening to the show for the first time, I'm Joe Roop. Our website is lightingthevoid.com. The network is The Fringe FM. Make sure you give us a follow, like, and subscribe on all the social media accounts, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, etc. If you want to call into the show at any point in time tonight, which you are more than welcome to, that stuff will be opened up from the front. That's 1-800-588-0335. And as I'm saying that, I'm just now opening up the phone. But most of you listen on the network, but we do have a chat room over in Spreaker. Just to let you know, that's where most of the cool cats hang out. We got some other cool people that like to hang out at the Fringe FM chat, which is a Discord chat room. And you can get there at thefringe.fm/chat. I heard a little bit more from Dan today. He's doing a little better. He just needs more time to get better, but that's good news. Also, please go check out the Surfer Music app. This is something I've been listening to all day. And as a matter of fact, this app, I don't even use Spotify anymore. I don't use any other music apps beside it. And I've been listening to it all day because I've had to do some calming down. And that's one of the reasons why we're going on a little bit, later, because I wasn't ready to do this tonight. I wasn't ready. I was kind of angry and frustrated. And when I get angry and frustrated, I know I'm going to say something stupid. And I don't like to do that. Although I know some of you like when I get angry and frustrated, but I don't like doing that. And so I wanted to make sure that I was very clear about this message that I'm going to be telling you tonight. Honestly, nothing bores me more than people's philosophy. And I say that with all due respect to everybody that wants to tell you their truth and stuff. It's not that, like, who cares, right? Everybody's got their own truth, but philosophy's philosophy. It's just like kind of politics and religion stuff. What you and I dig, and I know most of you and I dig people's stories. We want to hear their experience. We want to talk about that stuff. But every now and then, something will happen where you just can't shut up about it. You have to, it just eggs you so much that you got to say something. And I know this by the emails you send me, the messages that you send me on social media, your text messages, your phone calls, your emails. They all tell me one thing. One of the greatest stories happening right now is that more and more people are less concerned with fanaticism and more concerned with the truth. Now, a lot of the questions I get from you is, where do I stand on this stuff? How do you feel about curses and magic? How do you feel about the Hermetic tablets and the ancient knowledge? But more important, and to me, more important than where I stand is where you stand. Honestly. I mean, I'm here for you and me. But like you, there are certain things that I'm more passionate about. Certain things I will go to the mats on. And other things I feel it's just not worth my energy. That's the thing you learn growing up, right? Picking your battles. And if you're a person who values your time and your energy, you know exactly what I mean. I don't like doing shows on the human condition, psychology, or any of that stuff. That's more Ryan's Gables. He's better at that than me. But I need to clear the air on this Hermetic tablet issue. Why is the Hermetic tablet so important? Because it is vital to you to know where the Western mystery schools get most of their knowledge from and their beliefs from, to know the source of it. What I mean by that is the Rosicrucians, maybe some Freemasons, a few magicians out there, but by now most of you know that I'm a bit of a Hermeticist with a hint of mystic, I guess a hint of mysticism. But that's not important. I don't get on, that's like, to me, it's, even though it's mystic, to me, it's still like talking to you about politics and religion. I don't want to talk to you about that stuff. I want to hear your story. Tell me what happened to you. Tell me what you felt. That's what I'm into. But as much as I respect the late, great Bill Cooper's information about all of these things, he would probably call me a Satanist or a devil worshiper or a Luciferian. But you will get some accurate information as far as what texts say if you listen to him. Now, we're not going to get into too many specifics here because I am going to tell you some stories about my experience with this. And if you do your research, you will see in the end that this is true. It doesn't mean that I can't change my mind. In fact, I think that is a valuable asset, no matter how invested I am into a belief, to be able to switch a paradigm on and off and to change your mind. We're not going to get into that too much, but there's this whole thing that we need to talk about that a lot of you have asked me to talk about. And so when enough people ask me, then I'll do it. The Hermetic Tablet of Hermes and the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. Number one, and first and foremost, they are two different texts. Now, all of you know my Emerald Tablets of Thoth story. It was my first UFO experience. And there's even more to it that I haven't told you about. I think because I was maybe afraid that you would judge me about it. By the way, before we go on, I want to thank Lisa for coming on yesterday. I really appreciate that. It was an awesome show. And some of you did respond about the being on the Lighting the Void team thing. That's great. And I'm going to get back to you on that, I promise. But I think we got to get into this. You and I. This isn't Guestomania night where we're going to have a big name guest on and hope a whole bunch of people listen. For those that care about this, you're going to hear it from my end. And then I hope you'll respond. I hope you will. Because this is very, very personal to me. This is my whole life. This is my whole experience. It's everything I've studied. Now, to me, there's nothing more annoying than that term, truth seeker, right? You get tired of hearing that. There's so many truth seekers out there. The real question is what are your intentions? What do you really want to know? Well, I tell you what I want to know. I want to know about the aliens, man. I want to know where they are. When did they get here? Are they here to begin with? What are UFOs? What is our real history? What's been covered up, etc. I know you care about those things. At least I thought you did. And yesterday, something happened that really just kind of boggled me, and it still does now. Do you really want to know these answers? Do you really want to know? Honestly, ask yourself that. It's okay if you don't. It's okay if you think it's an entertaining subject, or if you think maybe you're one of those sci-fi people. You like talking about it, but you're a huge skeptic. You really don't want to know. You've already got your own beliefs. That's fine. But you're going to be on the other side of the line before this is all over with. Or do you want to be validated? Most of us want to be validated, right? We want to know that what we believe and feel in our hearts is true. What our experiences mean to us. We want that to be true. And it's really cool when we hear other people say it. The more people that talk about it, the better, because it becomes validated for us. But I know each and every one of you care about these subjects. And each and every one of you have a subject that you care about a little bit more than the other. The reason why I know that is my experience and research with my own audience tells me that. This journey we're on has to mean something, because if it don't, I don't even know why I'm here. Sure, it's fun and entertaining. I mean, I would hope, at least it's a little entertaining. I try to make it that way. But I know you share the same passions and drives that I do. In fact, most of you that I've talked to, I know for a fact that I could sit in a car with and take a road trip, at least a 5-hour road trip, maybe a 3-hour road trip with Moon, and enjoy the trip. Because we all want to know the same things. Ancient knowledge and the mystery traditions are important to me. Other than the out-of-body experience and consciousness, it's right up there with it. It's what floats my boat. So tonight, and I mean this with all my heart, if it's not important to you, if that subject is not important to you to figure out what's really going on there are other shows you can listen to right now, because what we're about to go down is important. At what level are they important to you? That's the first question you got to ask, right? I have a hard time believing you come here to listen only to my voice. Maybe you do. I don't know. But I hope that's not your only reason. And I know some of you are thinking, why do you care about accuracy, right? Last night you were talking about Elvis magic. Well, hell yeah. Because if Lisa has had that experience, I want to hear about it. You know, Whitley Strieber said that, right? Beliefs are walls, questions are doorways. And I'm a very curious cat. I got a lot of questions, and I got to hear these people's experience, because I might get some drops of truth out of it. The main thing that we're going to talk about tonight, and it's something I hate discussing, so I'm going to do it in a way that I hope it matters to you, because There are enough shows out there criticizing other radio hosts and other people. There are plenty of shows you can go listen to that all they want to do is debunk everything and criticize other people. It's boring. I know. I'm a radio listener too. I flip it, like change the channel quick. I don't want to hear that stuff. I'd rather listen to Alex Jones. But I want to hear each and every one of you guys' story. So let's start here. Okay? Let's start with the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. Most of you think that I would start the other way around. But no, I'm going to start with the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. You've heard Billy Carson talk about them. There's a lot of stuff that he talks about. He wrote books about it. Heard Jimmy Church talk about the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. But my experience goes back to the early 2000s with this. When people like Josh Reeves and other folks just found out about the texts and they were reading them. And each text had some fabulous mystery to it about magic and life. Hell, we did a couple of shows on it for the Voidwalkers. But if you remember correctly, I did tell you that I found out later that these tablets were channeled. When you hear that word channeled, what does that make you think? When somebody channels a book or a text or something, does that make you think it's not true? It doesn't give it academically the credit that it should, but it doesn't mean that it's not true either. But either way, I had my first UFO experience with this, and what I would do is I would listen to it on audio. The text, they're so profound, and any one of you that have listened to them on audio or read them know exactly what I'm talking about. Life-changing, profound stuff that will really shake your soul. There's no doubt about it. But I got to tell you, man, there's some science fiction books out there that do the exact same thing, that are life-changing, that shake my soul. Just like last night, we were talking about J.R.R. Tolkien. Most of you are Tolkien nerds, you know what I mean. So I would listen to these texts. Now, Josh Reeves, and to me, I'm lazy. I never could read a book front to back unless, I was taking my ADD medicine, quote, ADD medicine back in the day. Then I could read a big book front to back. So most of us had to listen to it on audio if you're like me. And so I'd go to YouTube and I would listen to people read the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. Now, this had to be like 2005 or something like that. And Jeff, the guy that used to do the news here, he knows because he was contracting houses. And I worked 2 jobs at the time. I managed a bar, and on the weekends, I would go out and paint interior houses because that's what I was good at. I ran a really good business painting homes. I could paint new homes or repaints. It didn't matter. Big houses, nice ones. Probably 400 or 500 houses here in Arkansas that I painted that people are living in right now. But anyways, so it'd be like noon or 3 o'clock in the morning, not noon, but midnight or 3 o'clock in the morning while I'm working on these things. And Jeff had told me, that this house was haunted, that drawers were opening up and stuff. And I just kind of laughed. I was like, really? That's crazy. When anybody tells you that, you think that, well, maybe the drawer slid open or whatever, but you'd like to believe that there's a real paranormal experience there happening. And this is where things get crossed up. This moment of liking to believe or wanting to feel that something's true. This is where things go really bad for folks that really seek truth. And we'll get into that in a minute. So anyways, sure enough, some weird stuff was happening in this house. At the time, I was listening to the Emerald Tablets of Thoth on tape. Not really on tape. I say on tape, but, on the internet, YouTube. And it was about 3 o'clock in the morning. I went out for a smoke break. I would work for 2 or 3 hours and then go out for a 5-minute break. So, it was kind of freaky too, man, because it's one of those neighborhoods where it's really silent. It's really dead. And I'm in a cul-de-sac, and the only thing that's on are the porch lights. So I walk outside. It's a clear night sky, and I lean on the back of the truck. I had a old step-side turquoise redneck-looking truck, a Chevy. half ton, and didn't even have a tailgate. It had a net for a tailgate, and I had paint splotches all over this thing in certain places, right? So I lean on the truck, and I take a drag, or pull off my cigarette, and I look up, and I see this light, star, whatever. To me, it's a star, just really bright. And it's right in the middle of the sky. And in the background, you could hear the Emerald Tablets of Thoth still. Josh Reeves, he's still reading the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. It's coming from inside the house, so it's not as loud. And I remember, man, I used to get chills from this text. I used to get like this was soul-changing information for me. And I remember thinking that, like, yeah, and then looking at this light, and then I was like, man, that thing sure seems like it's beaming right at me. And then as soon as I thought that, it turned like a spotlight would. If a cop car was spotlighting you and they turned their spotlight, it turned and then it disappeared. And at that time, I thought for sure that was something strange. I even told Jeff. I think I even tried to text him at 3 a.m, but he's usually sound asleep. And it's really crazy when you have an experience like that and no one's around and everybody's asleep because you just want to tell somebody and you're all by yourself. You want to jump up and down, tell somebody, maybe drive to the nearest service station and talk to somebody about it, right? Because it was one of your first experiences. It's freaky. And it's crazy because nobody's around. So I felt like this happened to me on purpose. It happened because no one was around. This is why all of these people that have UFO experiences never get validated, because it happens like this. They can tell the story, but no one was there to see it. Either way, I was ecstatic. Now, if I remember correctly, I only worked for like an hour more and got out of there. And all I wanted to do was research these Emerald Tablets of Thoth. Now, we're talking about like 2005. This was before I got into studying the occult and magic and the esoteric or anything. This was just like all this was to me was alternative spirituality after I realized that the Bible wasn't totally true. And so I was curious, man. I was into everything, and I was excited about everything. And some of you are at that moment right now, and some of you have been there for a while. And I'm telling you this because this shifted my paradigm. And even to this day, there are some that believe that the Emerald Tablets are a total fraud, right? Like there's nothing true or soulfully, spiritually true about them whatsoever. I don't know if I believe that, because I really did have that experience. Could it be a big coincidence? I don't know. But more importantly, as a truth seeker, after you have that kind of experience, you want to know what are these things? What are these tablets? Where do they come from? Did they touch my soul? Did they speak to me in some kind of subconscious way I don't know about? Profound stuff, X-Files type stuff. And so that's all I did. I searched this out. In fact, Thoth was the first Egyptian god that I learned about, because I didn't care about the Egyptians or Rosicrucianism. It was the Emerald Tablets of Thoth that got me into studying ancient knowledge and trying to figure out our history. I was already curious about it, but I really felt like I was onto something. I had something here. Why? Here's another question, right? Why isn't everybody talking about this? Why is it not huge right now? The letdown comes later. The experience is real, but the letdown comes later. More importantly, why is it important that you and I are talking about this right now? Because I've seen disinformation happen in the paranormal, and that kind of field, it's expected, you know. Not every paranormal story that went on Art Bell's radio show back in the day was telling the truth. You all know that. Not every person that say they saw aliens saw them. So it's kind of a field where disinfo kind of runs rampant. There's really not much you can do about it, right? That happens in consciousness exploration as well. certain people say they've had experiences, and maybe they just like telling a good story. I'll tell you a story about a guy that did that in high school, but when we come back, he used to tell all these crazy stories until one day. It's too good of a story, I got to tell you. We got to take a break, though. But what floats my boat is right now, and especially because it's such a hot topic, is that where did we come from? And people, they really dig into this Anunnaki stuff, the Zachariah Stitchin, this thing about aliens seeding the planet, and we're a slaver planet. And in a way, a lot of people look for things to validate that. And that's okay. That's fine too. But I want to tell you about my next experience with the Rosicrucians and why I figured out that there was another text that I thought for even a few years was the same thing. And I found out later it wasn't. And I'll even tell you some sources to go to. And then if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I challenge any one of you to prove me wrong on this one. Not because I want to be right, but because I want to know. And I know you understand what I mean by that. We'll be right back.
Lighting the Void Radio. The truth is out there.
There's something out here.
And so are we. KTOK Digital Broadcasting, The Fringe FM.
When I'm done running with the wolves after hunting down a half-ton bison, I look forward to a mind-teetering escapade evening on The Fringe FM.
Hi, this is Aaron Hunter, host of Real Paranormal Activity, the podcast where we tell real paranormal experiences of people from around the world. And we also conduct interviews with authors, investigators, psychics, and mediums. Real people, real stories, real fear. Thursdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern on The Fringe FM. See you then.
Okay, nurse, let's get this man to the ER stat.
Right away, doctor.
We see this every day. Heart attack or angina pain due to blocked and clogged arteries. Chelation can remove obstructions or blockages from arteries and help avoid painful and expensive surgery. Now there's Angioprim. It's a liquid oral chelation product that you take with juice. You start to feel the results fast. Angioprim increases blood flow all over the body, and that means more energy and strength to take on the day with less aches and pains. 60 years of research has gone into chelation, and Angioprim is the result. A safe and easy way to unblock your veins and arteries from buildup that slow circulation.
Paging Dr. Jones. Please report to the emergency room right away.
Log on now for a special radio offer from Angioprim. That's angioprim.com/radio. ANGIOPRIM. Angioprim.com/radio or call 877-882-7221. That's 877-882-7221.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Get the Tea is the #1 cleansing tea in America. We cleanse you with organic ingredients, and when used daily, you can increase your energy. Cleanse from intruders that set up camp in your colon. Cleanse your colon and feel the difference. Colon cleanses can be uncomfortable. Not Life Change Tea at GetTheTea.com. Life Change Tea is mild yet truly effective. Cleanse your insides every day. Easy to make, easy to use, and feel the results. Are you sold? Okay, then here's how to order. Log on to GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com. Look for our specials on the front page. Get the Tea also carries top-rated supplements for those who care about their health, naturally. Again, log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com and feel the results. And for those of you that arm yourself with information, come to our webinar every other Monday at 5 p.m. Pacific time. That's every other Monday at 5 p.m. Pacific. You can sign up at getthetea.com.
Howdy, this is Catalina, and you're listening to Lighting the Void with Joe Roop.
You're listening to Lighting the Void. The call-in number is 1-800-588-0335. If you would like to text, you can text in at 501-777-5631.
Good old Sammy. Thank you so much, Sammy, for giving out those numbers. Yeah, you can call in at any point in time if you want to debate this topic with me. That's something else we're going to. We're talking about the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, the Emerald Tablet of Hermes. We're getting down to it because it's a hot topic, and we need to really clear the air. That's my main concern, is that it's a hot topic, so we need to know what's real about it. Now, I'm not just going to talk to you about my experience. I'm also going to talk to you about my research on this, and it goes back quite a few years. And hopefully, all of you know that. If you were listening earlier, that I had a marvelous experience with the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. Had my first UFO experience. And by the way, before we get into the Rosicrucian road that I went down to learn about the other tablet, so every 2 weeks we do a webinar at getthetea.com. And, I say we because I'm kind of the guy in the background pushing the buttons. But this Monday, if you sign up at getthetea.com, we're actually going to be giving away a prize. So you're going to get something free. Not only will you get the coupon code, but someone's going to win some free stuff from Ronnie. So make sure that you sign up for that. It's not like an hour-long webinar. We just talk to you for a little bit, and then we do the contest and coupon, and you can get some free stuff. All right. So after having the experience with the Emerald Tablet of Thoth, it's all I thought about. And I'm talking about this. This isn't something that I just thought about for days. It was something all I thought about was for years, a few years actually. And I wanted to go on here and just correct, do the show tonight and say, well, this is what it really is. But I thought it would be better if I tell you what really happened to me. So as I got into this, I started learning about magic. And this is where I got involved with Frederick Xavier's work, who was one of the only people that was putting out anything about magic that had to do with the biggest secrets about magic on YouTube. And he had a whole YouTube channel, and it was called The Mystery Schools. And I remember when that guy didn't have but just a few hundred subscribers. And I remember just how much it touched me. And he kept bringing up this thing, hermetics, hermetics. What is that? What is that? And I'm like, what is he talking about? Hermetics. So that's when I started looking into it. The idea of hermetics was the background, the basis, the fundamental history of all of these great magicians and mystics that you hear about, like John Dee and Francis Bacon, Falconelli, Aleister Crowley. I can go Israel Regardie. The list goes on. That they all studied this stuff. It's almost like if there was a religion for, I guess you could say, Western Renaissance magic and those type of people, Rosicrucian-y type people, that's what it would be. It would be hermetics. And I would Google it, hermetics. What's the Emerald Tablet? And when you Google it, you'll see the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. And you're like, wait, okay, so it's the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. And then when you start reading, you only see this one tablet. And it's the Emerald Tablet of Hermes. I'm thinking, it's so damn confusing. I know it's confusing to you. And that's the problem, right? Because when things get so confusing to you, you start to not care about it, because it's like, who cares anymore? I don't even want to know about it because I'm tired of worrying about it. It's too confusing. I got to tell you, that's a problem. And so as I looked into this stuff, I found out that, okay, there was the Emerald Tablet of Hermes that was written way, way, way back, long time ago. And it was written by nobody really knows who. In fact, I will tell you this. There are no physical tablets known to anybody. I'm not saying they never existed, either or, the Emerald Tablet or the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. But there's no known tablets anywhere. Nobody's got an actual picture of the tablet or an actual picture of the tablets of Thoth. They don't exist. It doesn't mean they never did, but there's no picture in a museum of them anywhere. There may be replicas. There may be somebody that etched something in stone or a green emerald, but it's simply just a replica. So the Emerald Tablet of Hermes was even more mysterious because it was just one single tablet. One. And it dates back, the only real confirmed text, I think, is like 839, but there's other people that say it goes back to the 500s. But there's so many different people that put their eyes on this text. And if you want to get into the history of it, I left links on my Facebook page because it's vast. It's way more extensive than the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. And Isaac Newton, Madame Blavatsky, Fulcanelli, and many others translated that tablet, the Emerald Tablet of Hermes. You're going to have to do more than a Google search to figure this out. And you know, the reason why, like you, that I found out the truth about this is because I was so invested in finding out the truth. And when I pulled up an article and I saw a title, and you can do it to this day, you can look up the Emerald Tablets, just Google it now, and I guarantee you will probably find an article that says the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, and you'll see one tablet down there. Or you'll find an article that says the Emerald Tablet of Hermes, and then they have the Emerald Tablets of Thoth down there. So, in all fairness, it's very easy to get the two confused if you don't dig far enough. And this is what concerns me. Because right now, there are millions of people that are really starting to believe that these two texts are the same. Why does that matter? What does it matter if they're not? I'll ask you again. Are you concerned about the real truth? Or are you just here for entertainment? My story about the Emerald Tablets of Thoth and the UFO is pretty cool. It changed my life. I'll never forget that. I'll never forget it. But it actually led me to the Emerald Tablet of Hermes. It was a huge part of my, you could even say, initiation. It ignited my journey. It was a huge part of my Rosicrucian journey that I went down. My Rosicrucian journey into the desert. And at the time I worked at Verizon, and I just started learning about magic and all of the hidden things about it, and how it was even hidden in the Bible, and all of these crazy things that you and I are still learning to this day. But I did not want to just get all of my information from YouTube or Google. I couldn't do it. And so instead of going to the library and picking up books, because out here where I live, there's not a lot of libraries that have these texts that you can go to, like in San Jose or whatever. So I had to go to the source. And so what I did was I took my vacation, told everybody I was going to Vegas, and in a sense, I kind of was going to Vegas. And I was scared because I was going by myself. It was very scary, right? Like I've barely been out of Arkansas. Now I'm going to go to Vegas. That doesn't make a lot of sense, but I wanted to know this so bad. And I found a couple of Rosicrucian societies. There was the Amorc Society. There was the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn under David Griffin. There was the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn under Chick Cicero. And all of these societies were basically Rosicrucian and Hermetic in nature. They just are. They're based in Hermetics. David was the easiest one to find. So I hopped on a plane. And in fact, some of you that have known me for a very long time know that this is true. I hopped on a plane and I went out to Pahrump, Nevada. At the time, I had no idea Art Bell lived out there. I think I ran into him at the dollar store, actually, but I had no idea he lived out there. I wasn't even there for that. I wanted to see what these magicians and stuff were all about. I wanted to see a temple. I wanted to see those pillars and the checkerboard floor. I wanted to see what this whole initiation process was all about, and I did. And we can get into that another time, maybe later in the show tonight if we got time. But I found out that some profound things. Now, the only rituals I'd ever done in my life was brush my teeth or have a cup of coffee or maybe say the Lord's Prayer. But there was a lot of ritual out in that desert that was happening. A lot of weird stuff that I saw that didn't make sense to me, but ignited my soul. And then when I sat down, I asked one of the leaders out there, I said, look, have you ever heard of the Emerald Tablets of Thoth? And if I remember correctly, the Kabbalion as well. And the guy looked at me and he said, well, that's just channeled garbage. That's not really the Hermetic, that's not the corpus of Hermeticum. That's not the real Hermetic text. And my heart dropped in my stomach because the Emerald Tablets of Thoth were so important to me that I just couldn't believe that. I said, the Kabbalion, that's not really a true Hermetic text. It doesn't really come from the ancient times. And he said, well, no, listen, the Emerald Tablets of Thoth is a channeled text that comes from this Dorial guy that's claims to be a part of the Brotherhood of the White Lodge or Temple, which if you really start searching that, you'll find out it has no relation to the Brotherhood of the White Lodge. It's just something he created. And the Kabbalion is another channeled text. And I said, well, what does that mean? I asked. It was David Griffin I was asking this to. I said, well, what does that mean? And he said, it doesn't mean that they're not true, but they're not related to this text. Our whole Hermetic basis is based on the Emerald Tablet of Hermes. Man, I was heartbroken. I didn't want to hear this stuff. I was too invested. I had talked about the Emerald Tablets of Thoth to everybody. I thought it was, life-changing stuff, and I couldn't figure out why nobody else was thinking that. And for the most part, some people are like, yeah, man, I read that. That's cool. Yeah, they were really cool texts, but what I found out is real researchers and people that really dug into these things, they either got confused and gave up, or they found out that they weren't the same text, and it kind of knocks the winds out of your sails, right? And so later, after studying the Emerald Tablet, and I have one right here on my wall, the original Emerald Tablet, that was translated by Isaac Newton, Fulcanelli, Madame Blavatsky, Crowley, I realized that this is where it all comes from. And this is why I titled the show tonight, The Hermetic Paradox, because the Hermetic Tablet is when you hear people talk about as above, so below. You hear many people in ufology and paranormal and mystics and people talk, you hear that phrase, right? The first time that phrase was ever put into text that we know of was the Emerald Tablet of Hermes. And I know what you're thinking. Well, Hermes is Thoth. So it's not the same. We'll get into that in a minute. But that's where it came from. And the reason why I call this a paradox tonight is because you also find out in that tablet that you're supposed to separate what's true from what's false. Some things are just true and some things are just false. Whether you like it or not, whether you have years invested into it, whether your heart and soul is invested into believing it, it still could be false. And if you are a real, quote, truth seeker, God, they got to come up with a better name than that. It's almost like that word phenomenal. I'm sick of hearing the word truth seeker and phenomenal. But anyways, you got to be able to empty your cup like Bruce Lee says and start over. Now, that doesn't mean throw away your experiences. It doesn't mean forget about the Emerald Tablets of Thoth and how it made me feel and and how it relates to science and some mystery stuff. Like, it doesn't mean forget about it. That experience was real. And those texts are mystical in my mind. I mean, if you look up the guy that wrote the text or published the text, D'Oreal, in the 1930s, I mean, there was a lot of weird stuff. I mean, this guy kind of plagiarized some comic book stuff and put it in books. But, I mean, he was an occultist, right? Most occultists are weird kids. I know I am. And he channeled this information. And this is what I think happened, okay? And you could call this channeling or whatever. But I think that after D'Oreal or Claude Doggins, whatever you want to call him, read all these books in the 20s and 1910, 1920s, and he had all these experiences in his life, and he started learning profound things like you and I have. We have those experiences. He wanted to write them down. And he was big into science fiction and comic books and stuff. And he wrote down these experiences. And then he wrote down these laws, and he called them the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. And he probably did hide some very cool information in there. In fact, I think we might do a show about it one night, just on those tablets, because I still think there's some cool information hidden in there. But other than that, past 1920 or whenever he wrote that text, I know he published it in 1939, but past that, there's no historical record of anyone ever translating the Emerald Tablets of Thoth other than him. No Isaac Newtons, no Fulcanellis, no Blavatskys. Heartbreaking, I know. Now, if I'm wrong about this, I challenge any one of you, and that's a bold statement, to really give me the source that shows where I'm wrong about this. And I'm not talking about any modern books. Give me a historical source or a picture of Isaac Newton's translation of the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, or some type of source where that happened. And I promise you, from the bottom of my heart, just like when I told you guys I was wrong about chemtrails, I will tell you I'm wrong about this. I feel that that's important because some of you trust me. And if you trust me, then there has to be it has to be more important than my image or my authority or even the years I invested into researching it. Because we're on this journey together. I hope. And I hope that imaginary line I drew in the sand at the beginning of the show, some of you are starting to step across it. It's okay. Some of you don't know what it's like. See, you're the audience. You get to sit back and watch all this stuff go down and make your own decisions, and that's beautiful. People like me and Next NEXT and others feel like we have an obligation to say what we know is real when it's getting stepped on. And when I mean stepped on, I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just we know it's not true. And any of you that have a spine or a set of cojones have certain things in your life that you care enough about that when something's not true, no matter how many people are in the crowd, you'll stand up. I hope you will, for the most part. I hope you're not the type of person that runs from every single confrontation because you're afraid of confrontation or you're afraid of not fitting in or being different or being looked down upon. If you know something's true, you stand up for it. And something I learned from John Anthony West is when you get into purveying is like some hardcore truth in the face of all the marketing and authors and conferences, no matter what, eventually you're going to piss everybody off. I think Bill Cooper said that too. You just piss everybody off. And you got to make that decision. So that's why when people talk about UFOs or blue avians and all this other stuff, that's not my battle. Because honestly, I don't think, and I don't think you can either, really tell somebody that they didn't have that experience. As kooky as their experiences sound, it's hard to even source it. You can't. I mean, it's you either believe them or you don't. Or you've had the same kind of experience or you haven't. I think Mary Ducina kind of brought this up the other night. It's kind of like when you see somebody just beating the crap out of their child in Walmart. And I'm not talking about a spanking. I'm talking about somebody's just either hits their kid in the mouth or something. And everybody's standing around and there's that awkward moment. And you might hear a little giggle and somebody turns red and nobody wants to say anything. Meanwhile, that child is suffering. Who's going to have the cojones to say, hey, man, that child can't defend himself. You permanently scarred him for life, emotionally and physically, by what you did. What you're doing is wrong. And I'm going to call the police. Nobody wants to do that. That child needs somebody to do that. And I really feel like at sometimes when I'm studying this stuff and listening to other radio shows and getting on YouTube, that maybe it's a weird analogy, but I feel like the truth of magic and mysticism right now is a delicate child, and it's getting smacked around in all kinds of different ways and taken advantage of in all kinds of different ways and being marketed in all kinds of different ways. And I truly care about this stuff as much as I care about my pet Leo the cat. And I had to let this stuff go. Like I had to realize that they were two different texts. And when you guys look into this, you're going to realize it too. If you actually do the research, like don't listen to me, don't listen to Billy, Jimmy, nobody. Go and do your research for yourself. The first thing you're going to find is articles that are confusing the two. You probably won't see the separation. But the more you dig, you'll start to see how disinfo works, because disinfo did take a hold of this. And I don't have any animosity or any bad feelings towards Billy or Jimmy or anybody. You know why? Because I know both of them have had experiences. I know Billy cares about hermetics. I've listened to his videos. I've watched them. Okay. I know that this stuff changed his life. He believes in it and he's trying to spread it around and he's hoping that people will listen. But what he's talking about with the Emerald Tablets of Thoth is just that, a text that was published in the 30s. That's it. I mean, at this point, you can't even say, well, maybe they were old texts and they just been hidden and somebody did interpret them, but we just don't know it. I mean, that's like saying maybe, there were aliens back then that drove triangle black spacecraft and maybe somebody saw the spaceship and they just didn't tell us. It gets real like this or that. And I've seen that happen on social media, which is terrible, right? I see that happen. Instead of debating the actual information, we start with the attacks, right? I'm a good guy and I'm not bad like he says I am. Blah, and then everybody, the audience is sitting there going, what about the information? Are we going to talk about the information at all? Like, can we look into this and figure out what's going on? I want to figure out this Anunnaki thing. Well, no, I'm a good dude. Well, no, you're not. You're a thief, and et cetera. And then you got other people. God, it just gets out of control. You got other people that chime in. Well, I never trusted so-and-so, and I never blah, 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 blah. And now the actual question is so far buried. It's like that child in the cart that just got smacked in the mouth again. Nobody's dealing with that. And then some of you that don't have any confidence won't keep questioning it, right? So they'll say things like, well, I'm a good guy and I believe what I believe. Okay, man, that's good enough. I was just wondering. Well, you still didn't get your question answered. You're just too afraid to debate it because you're afraid of what's going to happen to you. You're afraid that people aren't going to like you. You're not going to be popular, or you're not going to be relevant. That stuff don't matter when it comes to seeking the truth or listening to people's story. It can't matter. When that matters more than the actual truth and hearing people's experiences, we've got a major problem. But it was through heavy study, and it shouldn't have to be that heavy. It was easy to see that there were two separate texts. texts. And I believe Billy Carson connected to the Emerald Tablets of Thoth on some level. But I'm also very hesitant about the Emerald Tablets of Thoth because of this guy's history, Dorial's history. Again, if you're a real seeker of truth, can somebody come up with a better name of that truth seeker thing? Can we come up with a better name for that? Because I'm sick of saying it. But you have to be able to let go of a paradigm or just know that it is what it is and open yourself up to another. It is one of the hardest things to do because you're so invested in it. And as I said, I watched this debate go back and forth on social media. And I thought, man, this is just getting out of hand. This is stupid. People cowering because they don't want to say something. Somebody might ask a question or somebody attacks Jimmy or Billy or whatever. That stuff don't matter. Especially people's past, man. That stuff, every one of us has had a rough past. I listen to other radio shows where people talk about, well, man, this guy's got a GED or he didn't get out of the 8th grade. Well, who cares, man? What is that to you? I mean, that's a whole nother thing, but that's stupid to attack people on that level. The question never got answered because of personal attacks, because people were afraid to keep pushing. That's terrible, man. You remember listening back to old time radio, Long John Nebel and all that. If they asked a question, they didn't get the right answer, they kept pushing. These are two different texts, right? Where can you show me where Isaac Newton translated the Emerald Tablet of the Tablets of Thoth? Can you show me that? Not an article, but show me the source. Show me an ancient text. Show me a picture of it. Well, I don't want to respond to that because I'm a good guy and you're just you're just hating. Fair enough, whatever you want to think. But here's the thing. Can you show it to me? You don't quit. Just ask. It's hard for me to watch the disinfo that's being pushed around when it comes to Hermetics, and stand by, I'm sorry. I believe the teachings are too important because there's something very important there. I heard Billy Carson say on the show the other day that, Hermetics is a lifestyle, right? Yeah, man, it is a lifestyle. To separate what's true from what's false, and as above and so below, all that stuff. Yeah, it is a lifestyle. But it may not be easy for someone just to say, once they've told you that this is, to look at it and say, oh man, I mean, there's a forward that says this stuff. You got so much invested in it. You got it on paper that there was a translation like that doesn't exist. Now you're really invested. So how important is it to go really do the research and look into it and know that maybe you were wrong, just like I was wrong about certain things? We got to be able to change our mind, right? I want to talk about something we're all invested in that I think none of us would want to change our minds about. Just to take you through a scenario. We're already at the top of the hour. And see if we could really do this as an experiment right here on the air. Maybe we can do this. I'm Joe Roop. This is Lighting the Void. Don't forget, after the program, the Secret Teachings with Ryan Gable will be on. Stay with us.
Out there.
There's something out here.
And so are we. KTOK Digital Broadcasting, The Fringe FM.
All right, everyone, this is Justin from the UK. Excuse the chitty. If you're into the Fringe and you want to hear the brass tacks, my old china plate, Joe Roop and his guests on Lighting the Void will open your mince pies. You need to shut your north and south and use your 10-speed gears and listen to them bubble. You could hear a Barry Crocker, no Brussel, but he ain't no holy friar. Anyway, you beat a Barnaby Rudge and take a butcher's.
Do you want to know the truth? Are UFOs real? Are aliens visiting Earth? Are governments around the world hiding the biggest secret in history? We're UFO Seekers, official partner of The Fringe FM, and we're on a hunt for the truth. Join us as we investigate locations like Area 51 by subscribing on YouTube at youtube.com/UFO Seekers.
Okay, here we go. AncientLifeOil.com. AncientLifeOil.com. Now, this is for CBD. AncientLifeOil.com. Again, for CBD. Where do I get CBD? AncientLifeOil.com. It's pretty good stuff. Organic, non-GMO. We are the Ferrari of CBDs. AncientLifeOil.com. You know, they say when you mention a person's name 3 times when you first meet, that you're going to remember. So I'd say to you, nice to meet you, AncientLifeOil.com. It's AncientLifeOil.com, right? Nice to know that you help people. AncientLifeOil.com. Think about this. Occasional stress, occasional anxiety, occasional inflammation, occasional stiffness, and intruders that get you down. AncientLifeOil.com. Okay, so I'm going to give you a fact for the day. So Ancient Life Oil does not help you with business deals. Hold on a second. If you feel better, it could help you make a better decision. Okay, I'm wrong. Just remember to go to AncientLifeOil.com.
Hey, Fringe FM listeners. Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or no Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of the Fringe FM by calling 701-719-3971. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. Saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Call 701-719-3971. That's 701-719-3971. Listen to the Fringe FM on any phone, anytime, anywhere.
Your home has needs. It needs a healthy, dry environment all year round. Start by getting rid of the worst air in the basement and crawl space, where the problems begin and make the whole house sick. Introducing the new Smart Wave Ventilation Unit. It has advanced technologies to continuously reduce moisture, mold, and odors, and expel radon, gases, and pollutants. And now, Wave units include carbon monoxide detection to automatically expel air at a high rate and send you an alert. It also has an app so you can remotely monitor the conditions. Wave is a comprehensive, maintenance-free, affordable solution that will transform your entire home. Protect your home and family with what it needs. Give it a new Smart Wave Ventilation Unit. For more information, call 888-717-WAVE. That's 888-717-WAVE. Or go to dryhealthyhome.com. That's dryhealthyhome.com.
Wave Home Solutions for a healthy, comfortable home.
You're listening to Lighting the Void Radio.
Follow The Fringe FM on Facebook and Twitter at The Fringe FM. Want to know what's on The Fringe FM? Check out our schedule at thefringe.fm.
To call Joe, pick up the phone, dial 1-800-588-0335, toll free from the United States or Canada.
Don't forget to sign up for the newsletter, too. I'm going to give you guys 4 free texts that have everything to do with tonight's broadcast, too, when that comes out. Most of you are chomping at the bit. I can't believe how many people are subscribed to the newsletter. I'm Joe Roop, and this is Lighting the Void. Tonight we're talking about the Hermetic paradox, right? And the paradox is to separate that which is true from that which is false. Hermetics, if any of you are familiar with Hermetics at all, it is pretty much the backbone of most of the magic stuff you hear about, most of the mystic texts you hear about, and even a lot of the stuff you hear about with the Anunnaki and everything and the seeded planets, right? That is where the Emerald Tablets of Thoth come in. So somebody brought up a good point in the chat room, right? They brought up the Bible and said, well, is the Bible a text? Is it important? Is it relevant? What if somebody wrote one book and another person translated it? And this is the problem. This is where things are getting confused. And I'm going to try to explain this as simply as I can. I don't want to talk to you like you're a child because that's condescending. But I don't know any other way to explain this other than if you got a book called Cat in the Hat written by Dr. Seuss that Dr. Seuss wrote in 1920, and then you got another guy that wrote a book called A Dog and a Cat, or The Cat with Hats, written by Dr. J in 2005. You cannot say that these are two the same text and written by the same person. It just doesn't work that way, right? They're not the same at all. And if somebody, and let's take the Bible, for example, the book of Moses, right? Or Genesis, the way it was translated by, from Hebrew into Latin, then into Greek, then into English, somewhere along that line. And Moses wrote that book. And if somebody came out with another book and they called it The Beginning, and they came up with it years later, and it wasn't near as long, it was only a small pamphlet, right? Written by God knows who, like Dr. Moses. That wouldn't even relate. How about Dr. Cat in the Hat? It's not the same text. It just isn't. Now, I don't know if I'm explaining this properly or what is so hard about it. The reason why people get them confused is because they both have the phrase Emerald Tablet in there. And because Hermes is also known as Thoth. But we're talking about esoteric stuff here. I mean, I can write a book and channel it and say that Isis wrote it, right? I can write a book as if Isis is writing the book and say Isis wrote it. It doesn't mean she did. And so anyways, that's a tit for tat thing. I think most of you understand what I'm saying here. But the problem is when you get so invested in something, it's hard to turn that around. I'll give you another example that I know most of us are invested in. I'm heavily invested in, is the Travis Walton story. Fire in the sky, right? Several witnesses, a UFO encounter where there were several witnesses. They all took lie detector tests. All of them passed, except one was inconclusive. They took the lie detector test more than once. Travis wrote a book about it, right? Everybody knows this story. If you're into ufology and you don't know the story, you're not really into ufology. And let's just give you a scenario here. And I'm going to be real careful because you never know when someone's tuning in at what time. But let's say that we find out later, somebody taps a phone call of Travis talking to his brother, or not his brother, but the guy that led the crew and the other guys, and said, boy, that was, I don't know how we got away with it, but we really did, pass that test, passed them lie detector test. You got, somebody just taps a phone call about them talking about a setup, right? And it becomes public. It becomes public. The information's out there or whatever. How many people are still willing to go down with that story? That's what I'm telling you. It's kind of like the David Wilcock and Corey Good thing, right? You've seen, I don't know much about either one of those guys. I've never talked to them, right? But certain things got wishy-washy. The truth came out about certain things. And you still see people going down in flames with that story with the Corey Good thing. I want you to think about this, because this gets dangerous after a while. It gets kind of Heaven's Gatey at some point, because instead of doing things on your own and really validating the information and experiences in your life, you have put a person on a pedestal. Now, later on, once that person goes down into the flames far enough, that group gets smaller and smaller and smaller, because people get brave enough to leave that whole paradigm and that thing they're invested in, and they're afraid to leave. But that group, eventually, it still will always have some people, because that's like a cult mentality, right? And then he says, drink this Kool-Aid, man. We're going to go places. And if you don't believe me, it happened, right? People will still drink the Kool-Aid. They won't pick up a book. They won't look it up for themselves. They won't dig into it. It's just too much to handle. The information's too much, man. Too much effort. I like the feeling I get when this guy speaks. I'm attracted to it. It's much more fun. Who wants to be around negative stuff anyways? Who wants to do this kind of information and do this kind of work when it comes to research? That's not fun. I just want to be around this feeling I get. And damn it, I'll drink the Kool-Aid. Now, I don't think Billy would, or Jimmy, or anybody, or David Wilcock, or anybody's even going to do that. I don't even want to relate them to that, because they're not those kind of people. But what I'm saying is, when it comes to the human condition, we get so invested in things that certain people will just go with it. It's crazy, right? And so I don't really want to get in a tit for tat debate about it, unless you've got some actual sources that you've cited that can show that they're the same, or the same person wrote them. You've got nothing to me. This is not a UFO experience. This is not the paranormal. We're talking about ancient knowledge. We're talking about real academia here. And if I'm wrong, show me I am. I give you my word, I'll admit it. It's more important. That's way more important than being right, is being able to do that. Now, let me take you to a different, that I think maybe Billy might be going through, right? Let me take you through an experience that most of us would love to go through in this field. We find this profound knowledge. Don't think I didn't think about writing a book or going to talking to everybody about how this is real when I first found out about the Emerald Tablets of Thoth and how it changed me. I still talk to this day about the experiences I had reading the text, right? And let's say you did the same thing. You and I had this experience. And you wrote a book about it. You went on several shows, talked about the experience you had. And next thing you know, 6 months later, everybody wants you on their radio show. And really, you don't really care about the radio shows as much as you care about the experience you've had, but you don't mind sharing it with people. And another 6 months goes down the road, and people are asking you to be on TV shows to talk about it. But you tripped up along the way, right? You tripped up somewhere back there, and you said that Isaac Newton and all these people translated this text because you went on a Google search or wherever, and you found them being confused, which kind of validates it even more, right? Now, I'm not saying this is what happened, but I could see this happening. And then you write a couple of books, and now you got, 100,000 YouTube followers, whatever you got. And everybody wants you to speak. They want you to talk on this. And now you feel as if you're a purveyor of truth and information, as if you're an authority figure in this field, and you're on top. People are looking at you for information. They ask you questions. You get messages, emails every day. You've become an authority figure. It's a great feeling, I'm sure. But this is how power corrupts too. It does that. It does this in government, and everybody always says, well, if I get $1 million, what I'd do, I'd give half of it to the poor. Hell, I'd give it. Nobody knows what they do until that happens to them. And then you find out later that some other people and radio shows or hosts or researchers are saying, no, man, you got this wrong. These are not the same texts. They're two different things, right? Are you just going to tell everybody that you were wrong about that? Are you going to walk off stage? Are you going to let everybody know that you were wrong? You're kind of trapped at that point, right? And for any of you guys that will go out there and do this research yourself, you'll see what I mean. And here's my prediction for this, because this is how information works. This is how you work. God bless you, by the way. Because most of you want to know so bad that you will start figuring this out for yourself. Just like the other incident I talked about. You'll start figuring this out for yourself. You'll start really wanting to research it, and then you'll be like, oh, no, this ain't right. And then the narrative will change. Well, I believe it was written by the same people. Well, that's not what you said. You said that it was. Well, I believe it was transcribed by Isaac Newton. Well, that's not what you said. You said it was. It definitely was, and there are records of it. Well, I just believe it in my soul now. It's my experience, and you can't tell me any different. And that's all they can do now. Or they can say, I was completely wrong about that. Which one do you think is going to happen? Now watch this unfold. That's what's going to happen. And it's frustrating because I know some of you guys have said, we had Next, NEXT on here, and he does the Egyptian trips. He does the trips to Mayas. This guy's, if you really want to do your research, we should have him on discussing this, but this was kind of a last minute thing. And I saw him stand up for something that he believed in, and I could not, for the love of me, could not watch him do it alone because I was passionate about it too. And he knows way more about this stuff than me. Like, he's done way more research and read way more books, but I still don't look at him as a purveyor of truth. If I find out some knowledge that doesn't add up to what he's saying, I'm going to come to him about it, but I guarantee you he'll talk to me about it. And whether people like it or not, that's all he wants, an open discussion, but that will never happen. This is where information starts to get controlled and the narratives get controlled. This is how real conspiracy works. A lot of times it's never on purpose. Like, I don't believe Billy Carson is a bad person. I don't believe he's a liar. I don't believe that he's evil. I believe he's a good guy that had an awesome experience with these texts. He probably knows, and he does other research, and he's researched other tablets and other, like, Sumerian tablets and stuff too. And just all of this just started happening, and he just went along for the ride. That's pretty much it. I talked to, like, Jason Quitt about this, right? And we all love Jason. And he said the same thing to me about his experience. He just came out and started talking about his experience. He had no intention of becoming well known or a big time speaker or anything. It just started happening to him. People just wanted to talk to him on radio shows, and then people started looking at him as this big authority figure. And hell, I even seen some conferences where women were screaming out the guy's name and fainting and stuff. It was wild, Think about having that kind of experience, man. Think about if that was you. It's pressure is what I'm saying. But no matter what, where we draw the line in the sand is where the information is accurate and where it's not. And I know this deep down in my heart, if John Anthony West was still here, and I walked up to him and I said, look, I got this thing that I feel like I don't know what I want to say, right? I don't know if I should speak up about it or not. But it's just bugging the hell out of me because I know it's wrong. He would probably laugh at me and say, what, are you worried you're going to offend somebody? Good. I'm not out here to offend people, but I respect you because you spend time here every single night. And I can't just go along with certain things because it's easier for the sake of entertainment and marketing sometimes. You just can't do it, you know. And I look to my mentors in this field, people like, you know, obviously Art Bell, whatever. And he would do the same thing. You know, he would talk to people about their experience. Wild stuff, man. He even have bits and gigs we all know that weren't true. We do that here. You know, we talk to people that just have wild stories. Some people say they met Satan and all kinds of different things. It's funny to hear their experience. Maybe they did, right? But when the audience reaches out for proof, or they call in and they ask about it or whatever, you got to be able to stand up for them. And that's exactly what he did. I had some clips prepared where Art Bell was doing that. And then I found out later I probably shouldn't play them for copyright reasons, where people would call in and ask questions about evidence and proof, and Art would stand by his listener. He didn't do that always. If he believed in something, like I remember the first time David Adair came on, that guy got a lot of punches, man. He got a lot of punches from a lot of people. But he still asked the right questions. We got to do that here with this situation, because I want to know the real truth about our past, our history. Where did we come from? Were we really seeded by aliens? Where did magic come from? Is there really a magic underlying on the earth and all this animism stuff that Gordon White talks about? Is that real? Now, we can't get down to the truth of that unless we have something to bounce off of, which is actual history. And actual history tells us that it's just the Emerald Tablet of Hermes is the actual old text. It's just getting confused, and that's it. I really don't know what else I could say about that other than just give you a bunch of semantics and links to go look up the stuff for yourself. But at some point, I know that this is going to be bad for me. I know certain people won't listen anymore because I said this. I thought about this for a long time today. Like, man, should I even say anything? Because I've got a lot of time and effort and energy, my life invested into this radio show and the network. Do you think I want to lose all that, right? And that's what's wrong with this whole thing, because people are afraid. Certain people have become so popular and they influence other people so much that you cannot come against them. And if you do, you're the bad guy, or you're the negative guy, or whatever. You're the guy with the dunce hat on, right? Yeah. But that's all right, because most of you, I know, I've talked to most of you, really just care about the truth and the information. So it was a hard pill for me to swallow when I went into the desert. When I went, I guess you could say, through my spiritual initiation. I didn't want to accept it. I thought, you know, the Emerald Tablets of Thoth is the ultimate truth. It's the real text about our history, and it's not. It's the same when people talk about the Emerald Tablet of Hermes. It's really the same text, and it's not. I was in denial. Denial's a funny thing, because you can't separate what's true from what's false when you're in denial. And the real Emerald Tablet has been translated in several different ways. And the reason why they have it translated in several different ways is because no one really knows exactly what it says to the T. Even smart guys like Isaac Newton, they all have their own separate translation of their Emerald Tablet. And here's one translation. True without falsehood, certain and most true. That which is above is that which is below, and that which is below is that which is above. For the performance of the miracles of the one thing, and as all things are from one by the meditation of one, so all things have their birth from this one thing by adaptation. The sun is its father. The moon is its mother. The wind carries in it its belly. its nurse is the earth. This is the father of all perfection, or consumption of the whole world. Its power is integrating. If it be turned into earth, thou shalt separate the earth from the fire, the subtle from the gross, suavely and with great ingenuity. It ascends from the earth to heaven and descends again to earth, and receives the powers of the superiors and of the inferiors. So thou hast the glory of the whole world. Therefore let the obscurity flee before thee. This is the strong force of all forces, overcoming every subtle and penetrating every solid thing. So the world was created. Hence were all the wonderful adaptations, of which this is the manner. Therefore I am called Hermes Trismegistus, having the three parts of the philosophy of the whole world. While I have to tell is completed concerning the operation of the sun. What I have to tell is completed concerning the operation of the sun. That is so different than the 13 or 14 tablets written by Thoth and Doriel in 1939. The keys to alchemy and the mysteries and all of the stuff that people are trying to figure out with magic and alchemy and the Rosicrucians is in this tablet. But that's one translation, right? I mean, other people have translated it different. Another thing that bothered me is I kind of reached out to some heads of Rosicrucian societies that I thought would care about this. I said, you know, there's a lot of disinfo going around about this, some of these channeled texts and the real Hermetic, Corpus Hermeticum, again. And a lot of them laughed. They said, yeah, it goes in cycles. What we hope is that people will do their own information, or they'll do their own research. We hope people like you will speak out, because they're too busy doing their inner work, doing their alchemical stuff. They could care less about the nitpicking. Some of them are pretty advanced. So they leave it up to guys like me and NEXT and Jimmy Church and Billy Carson and all these other big names to really speak the truth. It's a lot of damn pressure, man. I hope that one of you guys, just at least one of you, will look this up for yourself. One of you that believes that these two texts are the same thing, written by the same entity or being or whatever, and really looks into this and can either cite the sources why you believe that, or that you'll finally realize that it's just a paradigm, that it's okay to be wrong. Only got a few more minutes left in the show. I got some text ins here we'll get to. We'll be right back.
Is out there.
There's something out here.
And so are we. KTOK Digital Broadcasting, The Fringe FM.
You're listening to Lighting the Void Radio.
Who were the real ancient Egyptians? What is it about ancient Egypt that captivates us all? The critically acclaimed series Magical Egypt is back with all new episodes. Let Chance Gardner and company take you on another adventure through Magical Egypt in the new series Magical Egypt 2. Magical Egypt 2 attempts a forensic reconstruction of the science of the ancients through a study of ancient aesthetics. Also, the best researchers and authors in the field like John Anthony West, Graham Hancock, Laird Scranton, Robert Bouval, Lon Maladuquette, Aaron Cheek, and more join together to explore the topics of the esoteric and the hidden messages of the ancient Egyptians. Just go to magicalegypt.com right now and put in the code word FRINGE and get 10% off any download or order, including the groundbreaking original Magical Egypt series, as well as the new episodes in Magical Egypt 2. Also, check out the great work and the companion series at magicalegypt.com. Click the banner on the Fringe FM or go to magicalegypt.com and use the code word FRINGE and get 10% off your order today while it lasts.
All right, everyone, this is Justin from the UK. Excuse the chitty. If you're into the Fringe and you want to hear the brass tacks, me old china plate, Joe Roop and his guests on Lighting the Void will open your mince pies. You need to shut your north and south and use your 10-speed gears and listen to them bubble. You could hear a Barry Crocker, no Brussels, but he ain't no holy friar. Anyway, you beat a Barnaby Rudge and take a butcher's.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Hello, this is Vance Nesbitt. Take the time to expand your mind by listening to Lighting the Void with Joe Roop right here on the Fringe FM.
Follow the Fringe FM on Facebook and Twitter at the Fringe FM.
Lighting the Void is proud to announce Mind and Magic's Protection and Defense Course for protection from magical and psychic attacks. This is not a joke. Magic practitioners are on the rise, and with that comes attacks from baneful or black magicians that try to harm or hurt others for their own selfish reasons. If you are not a believer in psychic attacks, then this isn't for you. If you are, and you want the power to defend yourself and your family and home, then I highly suggest you grab Freighter Xavier's Protection and Defense Course. In this course, you will learn how to tell if you are under attack from a natural source or if an individual is attacking you. The 4 forms of curses and attacks. How to remove self-imposed curses. The correct way to cleanse your home from negativity or malevolent entities. How to make your own holy water. What you should always keep near or under your bed. Herbs that banish negativity and promote purity. The most powerful banishing rituals on the planet. And for those that seem to want to harm you the most, how to put your enemies in a hell pit of their own making. You can also learn protection against shadow people and other entities. Or are you just in a bad planetary alignment? Even how to get rid of an enemy using a tic-tac box. It does not matter what your faith or belief is, this will work. Click the banner on the website at lightingthevoid.com or go to lightingthevoid.com/Xavier.
Want to know what's on the Fringe FM? Check out our schedule at thefringe.fm.
All right, we're back. Thanks for joining us tonight. We're talking about the Hermetic Paradox. I call the show the Hermetic Paradox because we're discussing the Emerald Tablet and a different text, the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, because it's a paradox. Because in Hermetics, it is a fundamental law of Hermetics to separate what's true from what's false. And again, in this field, in the paranormal, in ufology, and in consciousness exploration, there are just certain things that we just don't know. We'll never know, right? We don't know if everybody that tells us they saw an alien or had an experience with an alien actually did. We have to make a choice whether we believe them or not. And I'm not this guy that goes around, I need proof. I need proof. I need proof. I don't need proof. I like evidence. Love evidence. Don't need proof. It was Thomas Campbell, famous consciousness explorer and NASA physicist, that taught me that. I'm not out to prove things. I'm out to get evidence. That's all. So when somebody tells me that they had an experience with an alien or whatever, I'm not out to get proof. But if they have evidence, I'm going to try to get it out of them as much as possible. Not because I want to prove them wrong, not because I think they're lying if they don't have it, because I want to know. I think knowing is so much better than believing. In a lot of ways it is. Because when you know something, it changes your paradigm. Right? When someone tells me about a ghost experience, unless I was there, or I would like to see some footage or some pictures, right? That's evidence. Everybody wants to see that stuff because then they know. The out-of-body experience, you guys, I mean, if you're going to don't hold me to a double standard, right? You know, I've had that. How could I prove that to you? How can I give you evidence that ever happened to me? At some point, you're going to have to trust me. But I do know that if I tell you that the Emerald Tablet of Hermes is written by the same person as the Emerald Tablet of Thoth, and that they're the same text and it was translated by Isaac Newton, that is false. And that at some point, if you're a real truth seeker, you're going to find that out. How will you ever trust me? And that's not even what's important, because this is a big question, right? That's not even the most important thing. The most important thing is knowing. Now, there is a question in the Fringe FM chat, or a statement that said, Valentine Tomberg said that the Emerald Tablets of Hermes were not written on this plane or planet. I'll buy that. In fact, I'll buy that maybe, let's say maybe, the Emerald Tablet of Hermes was channeled from a higher plane back in whenever, like the 800s. And that the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, I mean, this is a real stretch, was channeled by the same, by the same being through a different person in the 1930s. And now you got 14 tablets instead of one. And it's just a more mystery revealed channeled text. That could be. That's a possibility, actually. But by saying that, and this is semantics here, but it's important to know this stuff too. Saying that Isaac Newton, Madame Blavatsky, Fulcanelli, and all these other people translated the Emerald Tablets of Thoth and read them is false. Not true. I mean, and it's not true because we have no evidence. They spoke not of it. They never did it. There's nothing in a museum, anything showing it, right? Nothing. So I can give you Isaac Newton's translation of the Emerald Tablet of Hermes right now. And the one translation I read was from the Builders of the Adytum. It's a plaque that I have in the studio. Paul Foster Case, right? That's their group, which is another Rosicrucian society. But it was translated, the Emerald Tablet of Hermes, by Isaac Newton in 1680, and his translation was, "'Tis true without lying, certain and most true. That which is below is like that which is above, and that which is above is like that which is below, to do miracles of only the one thing. And as all things have been and arose from one by meditation of one." I like how they put ye in there. It makes them sound so cool, right? "So all things have their birth from this one thing by adaptation. The sun is its father, the moon is its mother. The wind hath carried in its belly, the earth is its nurse. I think they misspelled that. The father of all perfection, and ye whole world is here. Its force or power is entire, if it be converted into earth. Separate though ye, earth from ye fire. Ye subtle, from the gross sweetly with great industry. It ascends from ye earth to ye heaven, and again it descends to ye earth and receives the force of things superior and inferior. I'm not going to say ye anymore. Sorry, Mr. Isaac Newton, I can't do it. By this means you shall have the glory of the whole world, and thereby all obscurity shall fly from you. Its force is above all force, for it vanquishes every subtle thing and penetrates every solid thing. So was the world created. From this, and do come admirable adaptations, wherefore the means or process is here in this. Hence I am called Hermes Trismegistus. Trismegist, he put Trismegist on here. Having three parts of the philosophy of the whole world. That which I have said of the operation of the sun is accomplished in the end. Now, you remember how we always talked about the solar body, and we looked into Christianity, and we see that this is astrotheology, and it's all about the solar light body and all of this stuff, right? That was Isaac Newton's translation in 1680. Now, if you go to Crystal Links to the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, there's a preface here. Then there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 tablets and 2 supplementary tablets that were never translated by Isaac Newton or anybody like that. They're just totally different. Translated by D'Oreal. It came out in the 1930s. And that's the truth of it, right? That's what's true. What's happening is people are giving the Emerald Tablets of Thoth more academic credit than it really has, than it's really there, right? And your mind and my mind, it could be semantics, but not to me, because I want the original thing. This is the original tablet is the one I know. The original text is for real. There's no tablets anywhere. But in the story, in the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, they talk about how they're hidden in pyramids, and there were priest kings that kept them hidden. And all of a sudden, now this D'Oreal guy is going to be the one to reveal everything. It's being pushed as almost like a Bible, so to speak, of Hermetics. And if there was a Bible of Hermetics, it would be the Emerald Tablet of Hermes, the singular tablet, and the Corpus Hermeticum. Not even the Kabbalion. That would be considered maybe like the New Testament or whatever. So I know some of you may think that I'm here to destroy the Emerald Tablets of Thoth and Billy Carson and all this, but that's not it at all. That's why I told you about my experience, that UFO experience I had. Maybe D'Oreal did tap into something, right? And I hope all of you read these tablets. I mean, they're profound, right? If you read them, they are pretty cool. I mean, there's certain experiences I've had that I think that come from out of this world that I just can't tell you are ultimate truth, right? I still haven't talked to you about them on the air. Maybe one day I will. But until I have a certain amount of evidence to back it up, I'm not going to tell you about those. But the out-of-body experience, I mean, that's kind of obvious, right? I mean, there's no way we can. I guess if you want to call the Monroe Institute evidence, the people that go to the Monroe Institute, the thousands and thousands of people that have had out-of-body experiences, that could be considered evidence to a certain level. But disinformation is funny. A lot of you think disinformation happens because there's some type of evil in the world that wants to give you the disinfo. And I don't think that's what happens. You know, what happens is sometimes people just get too far invested into what they're saying and what they're telling everybody that they cannot go back when they should go back on what they said about certain things. And it doesn't make them bad people. It doesn't make them evil. It doesn't make them sinister. What Bill Cooper said, what did he call them? Communist, Nazi, socialists that want to take over the world. Luciferians. Now, if Carson wants to believe that the same entity wrote both texts at different times, I'll buy that. I'll go with that. I've actually emailed him to come on the show to talk to him about it because I wanted to share with him my experience with the tablets, the ones in the 30s that I had, right? Or the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. But we've got to be able to represent them as a separate thing. And then that's it, right? And so I wanted to clear the air there, only because certain people have asked me to do it. And when you Google it, again, I want you to realize this. When you Google it, because I know that's what some of you are going to do, you're going to see the confusion, right? You're going to Google it. Hopefully you'll see the Crystal Links version that has the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. If you go to Sacred Text, it's going to be a lot harder to find the actual Emerald Tablet because they'll have the title will say the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, and then it'll show just the one picture, the tablet or vice versa, and you won't see the difference until you dig far enough, until you care enough, I guess. Now, tomorrow night, we're going to do our new moon show with Mary Ducina, and then Friday night, I'm hoping I got a special guest to come on the show, and we're going to change things a little bit for the show. Not for the bad, but for the good. Some shows are going to have multiple guests on. And I think you're going to enjoy it because I got people offering to help like Don and Moon, and that's really awesome. Really good. Dennis has always helped. So in a way we do got kind of a team here at Lighting the Void. Always have. I just haven't really reached out and said, hey, will you help me? But we're in this together. I promise you. If everything I've talked to you about tonight is wrong, don't send me your messages about, well, what if this and what if that? And if you've got a source that shows Isaac Newton translating the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, I want to see it. And I promise you, I'm not that invested. Even if I was, I'll change my mind. Our history is a delicate thing, man. It's hard enough for us to believe mainstream history. I don't know if any of you listened to Dan Carlin's Hardcore History, but we've been lied to so much about history. That's why there's so many conspiracies and theories about, slave planets and draconians and aliens and stuff, because number one, people have had experiences with stuff like that. They put the information together in their mind to a certain extent. They don't start out that way. It's like 90% truth, 10%, here's my theory, which is fine. But the reason why they don't trust is because we've been lied to so much. So please, the last thing we need to do is misrepresent information in this field. It took a lot. There's a classic example of Robert Schoch and John Anthony West. The whole of academia was invested in that narrative of Egypt or the Sphinx. We talked to Robert Schoch on the show how scary it was for him to go out into a crowd of academia and go against what they've been saying because his reputation was on the line. He was an authority figure, but even Schoch still did it. We can't be that. You have to be that way too. If you've got a question and you ask a question to somebody, whether it's me or God or your doctor, and they don't answer your question, or they beat around the bush, or they say, well, they take it as a personal attack, or they try to convince you they're a good guy, or they manipulate you, you keep asking that question until you get the answer. We're in the damn void, folks. The void, where nothing is anything and anything is nothing. And that's what this is all about, getting real answers. Lighting the void, right? Evidence helps, experience helps. But stay on the question. Keep asking that question. Not like the press, right? Not like the press when the press goes out to, is it true that you snorted cocaine with this woman back in the 1920s? And, what the press does to the boxers when they're they did it to a Robert Downey Jr. and everybody else when they're trying to promote their books or their movies and stuff. And, oh, what about your drugs? Because they just want to create confrontation and all this stuff. That's not what I'm talking about. But when it comes to the the history of it, or something that matters to you, like our history, ufology, ET contact, the paranormal, ask the question. Ask, even if you call in, ask the question, text in, ask the question. And if you don't get an answer, say, hey Joe, I didn't get the answer I wanted. He didn't really answer the question. I'm not going to just nod and go, yeah, right. Yeah, right. Man, you're so right. Yeah, no. We'll ask the question. We'll try to get answers. And if it's not there, then we just got to move on. I hate doing these types of shows. I really do. I hope I never have to do this type of show again. I leave this stuff up to Ryan and people that like to talk about the human condition and psychology and how disinfo happens and misunderstandings and, polarity and people can't see. I hate this type of stuff. I love the stories. I want to hear your story. I want to hear what happened to you. And sometimes some of you get brave enough, you'll call in. I'll never forget when Dennis called in and told me about what happened to him when they were climbing. That story will stick with me forever. Forever. Or the lady that called in and told me about these dreams that she keeps having of alien ships, but they look like the Jetsons on the top, and she's trying to figure out what's going on. She wants answers to that. She's really having that experience. But I'll never misrepresent information here, not on purpose. And if I'm wrong about it and you call me out on it, I promise you, we'll look at it together. We'll figure it out. And I really, really do appreciate each and every one of you that bear through this with me. And it's fun. And we're going to keep doing it. I have the best interest at heart. I don't know how to convince you of that. I really don't. I mean, I gave up my life. I had a decent life, as far as money goes and stuff, to do these types of things. And I got the best interest in heart for you. I don't want to make enemies trying to figure this stuff out. We shouldn't have to worry about those things. Are we going to make an enemy by asking a question? Is somebody going to look at us negative because we want evidence, or we just didn't get our question answered? We shouldn't be that way. We're different, right? You and I are different. We can sit down and have two totally opposite opinions about religion, politics. Probably we'll never bring that up because we know better. One had an experience one way and one had another. We can look at the information and we can say that, man, maybe I'm wrong about this, or that's interesting. I got to believe that this community can do that. Either way, from this point out, when it comes to the Hermetic tablet issue and the Billy Carson thing and all of that, I hope you'll do more than just search it on Google and read one article. I hope you'll go past that. Because there is a mystery here, and it's important. But we got to get out of here, and thank you guys for coming on the show. Tomorrow night we'll be back actually at 9 p.m. Pacific. And don't forget that this show was produced by the Fringe FM and cannot be syndicated without written permission. And music was by Chrono Space Station and Kevin MacLeod. Guitar Man by Bundy. Some music from the public domain. See you guys tomorrow night. Good night.
On this program do not necessarily reflect those of the Fringe FM, KTLK Digital Broadcasting, its sponsors, affiliates, or staff. Listener discretion is advised. We told you weeknights on the Fringe FM are now even better.
And we mean it.
Do it live!
Where else can you hear the best shows and the best talent? Kick off your evening with our newest host, Alex Exum, live at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 Eastern. Hang out with me, Joe Roop, on Lighting the Void at 9 Pacific, midnight Eastern. Ryan Gable expands your mind on the secret teachings at midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern. We're bringing the heat every single night. Fire it up, The Fringe FM.
Yahoy there. This is Gigi from Shift Happens. And holy shit, you're listening to KTLK, The Fringe FM. Hey, don't you dare turn that stand.
Close the window, lock the door, start the party going up in four. Hey, let's all get gay, the stuff is here. Everybody just pass your glass, hold the jug but not too fast. Hey, let's all get gay, the stuff is here.
I'm gonna run out for some beer.
The piano man sit down upon that stool. If you need a helping hand, you'll be rewarded. Don't you feel like a doggone fool? Close the windows and lock the door. Take the rug up